Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to another Clearwater Jazz Holiday Foundation's Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions. I'm your guest host today, Michael Kernodle, and we have a treat. We have none other than our awesome master educator, Tyler Wertman, and this topic today is choosing proper equipment. We're talking mouthpieces, bore size, cases, and more. So I know you're going to enjoy this topic today. He's going to give us a lot of great things. So don't feel bad about, not pulling your instrument out. But I do want you to pull out a pen and a pad because I know he's going to have some great information for us. Right, Tyler? Of course.
That's right.
So we want you to be interactive. If you have questions, go in the chat, type your question in, and we're going to answer any questions you have at the end of the session. So before we go on, we want to thank our sponsors. I want to remind you to check out the studio archives of past video sessions at clearwaterjazz.com. Education outreach section, and that's brought to you by Blue Water Wealth Management at Stewart Partners and Duke Energy, as well as the Young Lions podcast, and that's available wherever you stream. And that's brought to you by our friends at Marine Max Clearwater, and just search Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions. You know, some awesome sessions that Tyler has given us in the past. I'm just going to name a few, and you could always go back and check them out. He did a lot of basic trombone fundamental sessions, some with long tones, major scales and arpeggios, developing and warm-up regiments. I mean, there's so many great sources of knowledge that he's given us. And if you don't know who Tyler is, he's a jazz trombonist, and he's very special to us here at Clearwater Jazz Holiday because he's been with us with the master sessions. And if you've been in the schools, you probably saw My Journey with Jazz programs. Great part of that. He's a composer, performer, producer, and he focuses on jazz and classical styles. He's performed throughout Tampa Bay and beyond in all kinds of stages across the country. And he's currently an instructor of music at the University of Tampa, where he's presently teaching Introduction to Jazz as well as world music cultures. He has a Bachelor's of Arts in Music from FSU and a Master's of Music in Jazz Studies from USF. So no more from me, because I know you're ready to dive into this awesome session. So Tyler, welcome back. And the stage is all yours.
Hey, Mike, thank you again. Thank you, Clearwater Jazz, all of our sponsors. I really enjoy getting to come here and getting to share some info with you guys. And today it's going to be info regarding equipment. We have not dove into this discussion yet, and I was sort of waiting for a good time because I believe whatever equipment you have, well, one, that's probably the best equipment for you because it's accessible to you, right? What we're going to be covering today is different sizes of different instruments, bores, mouthpieces, sort of talk about what is the standard and what might you look for certain situations going forward. But understand, being a well-rounded, trombonist means you should be able to play almost any style or achieve any sound with one instrument, right? And that shows your versatility and mastery of the instrument. So with those things in mind here, let's talk about just bore sizes. Now, you might hear small bore, large bore, medium bore when you're dealing with brass instruments. And so what that means is basically the diameter of your tubing between each pipe. Okay. And obviously we have some diameters that change as our instrument, goes from beginning till end, which is very natural. It almost amplifies, if you will, the sound going out. So it's kind of important to understand what your instrument is doing, okay? And so when you hear the term large bore, or large bore trombone, large bore tenor, what you're basically saying is that bore size is above, at least 509, 0.509, I guess, 510. And so that just indicates that it's a pretty, large opening between the pipe or the tube here, the brass. And what that allows is more air to get into the instrument, allowing you to achieve, a deeper sound, sometimes lower in these cases. And so what instruments are going to have a larger bore? Well, your tenor trombone with an F attachment, for instance. So our slide here is a bit larger, than our trombone slide from our 508 slide. Now, some things that you'll notice is that they're generally the same size, but some things to take away from is that it is quite thicker. Now, obviously, side by side, they look pretty identical, but when you actually begin blowing your air down your instrument, you quickly find that it is very, very wide. And so it requires a more steady stream of air to produce sound, a great tone on that instrument. What this instrument is, it's a medium bore, actually. It's a 508 slide. And like I said, 0.509, 0.510 and up can be large. So it's just on that bigger end of a medium sized bore. And when you get into numbers like 0.480, 480, around these smaller numbers here, 0.450, sometimes for your, King B or 2B, for instance, are going to be your small trombones, your quote unquote pea shooters, as they used to be called back in the day, because they are very, 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 not thin, but the diameter between the slide is it's decreased. And so it actually requires very focused air. And when you play through a small bore instrument, it can allow you to actually reach higher pitches because that bore size is smaller. Okay, so we have large bore, medium bore, and small bore trombones. Now, large bore is mostly for orchestral music, when your medium and small bore are usually used in jazz. Okay, and so with bore sizes, we have a similar sizing structure, to mouthpieces as well. Now, mouthpieces is probably the most crucial element when it comes to your playing. Why? Because this is the piece of metal that in fact touches your lips to produce the sound. It's the first thing that's going to be happening before we even deal with the trombone. So it's really important to find a mouthpiece that fits your mouth, so to speak, size-wise and depth-wise, what's comfortable for you. And understand that each mouthpiece, is going to have a different size in diameter here, but it's also going to have a depth, how far it allows you to actually go into that mouthpiece before the conical seat here, tapers it down to the shaft. And so it's important to find something that's comfortable, something not too big, not too small, right? Three little bears, something just right. Okay. And in music, or trombone, should I say, the standard, the go-to, one of the best trombone mouthpieces here is the Bach 6.5 AL. Okay. And I say this in terms of size. Okay. It's a good medium-sized mouthpiece, that will continue to be the right size for students as they progress on the instrument. Okay. It's a great solid foundation of a mouthpiece for you to build on, and you really don't need too much else Okay. If you sit down with, a comfortable medium-sized mouthpiece like that, middle school and high school, if you continue to progress, you'll find, instead of maybe buying another Bach 6.5 AL, you might find another company, okay, that makes a similar size. It's maybe just a little shallower, okay, or a little smaller, or a little bigger than that size, because you have been accustomed to it. Okay, like I said, so a 6.5 AL is a great medium-sized mouthpiece. If you want something a little smaller, okay, say you're younger perhaps, and maybe you're not as big, you're a very tiny person and you need something small, and hey, your physical attributes is something to take in mind here. A Bach 12C in this case is going to be quite a bit smaller, okay, and a few students will do better on the 12C than the 6.5, because remember, larger is not always best, okay, but if they do, if students do sound great on this 12C, I would definitely recommend playing it over time, and maybe even increasing that size if you're comfortable with that to a 7C. Now a 7C is in between the 12C and the 6.5, and all of these are Bach mouthpieces. Now, like I said, there's a whole bunch of other companies here. You have Yamaha, you have Scholke, and the list goes on. Okay. And so if you were to maybe look up Yamaha sizes, okay, understand they call their sizes something completely different than what Bach calls it, or what Scholke or what Marcinkiewicz calls their mouthpieces. Okay, so a 6.5 AL in a Yamaha size is actually a Yamaha 48. Okay, a 7C, well, that's for the Bach, but a 12C would be a Yamaha 50, or excuse me, Yamaha 45. Okay, so you have the 45 for Yamaha, which is the 12C, which is very small. Then you have the 6.5 AL for Bach, which is a great medium mouthpiece, and that would be a Yamaha 48. Okay, so each company just has their way of labeling their mouthpieces, but all of them are different combinations of depth, right, and rim diameter size. Okay, and basically the main difference between all these different companies, okay, is going to be the rim, essentially. And again, your rim is what makes contact with your lips, but that has nothing to do with the diameter, right, or the depth of the mouthpiece. It's really just how the rim is shaped. And you might find Yamaha rim might be more comfortable to you, or you might like the Scholke rims, or Bach is just fine for you. Okay, and again, it's important to find which mouthpiece and which size that is. I would recommend when you're going to maybe Sam Ash Music or any music store to try out some different mouthpieces. Okay, and by trying out mouthpieces, I recommend having a short excerpt memorized in mind, so that you can play this short excerpt on each individual mouthpiece. How does that feel? Is it too sharp? Is it too dull? Are you not achieving that focused center as maybe your old mouthpiece was? And why are those things? Think cognitive when you're trying out new equipment, because you don't want to be that guy just buying new equipment for the sake of having new equipment, or maybe you do. Okay. Regardless, I recommend taking the time, sitting down with your equipment, and really getting to know it for at least, if possible, 2 weeks before making that decision of I love it or I hate it, because it is going to take some time for those things to become noticeable in your everyday playing. Okay. So we spoke a little bit about bore size already. We spoke a little bit about mouthpiece size already. Now we're going to talk about some equipment things that you should probably have as well. Now, these mouthpieces, they're not the cheapest things in the world, right? Depending on which model, which materials you want. And something I recommend to every student is to have one of these. Okay, what these are, they're like maybe 15, 20 bucks, but they protect your mouthpiece. Okay, they're mouthpiece protectors. They go in and they Velcro shut. Okay, you can find one that's made out of leather if you want to be very fancy, but these things save your mouthpieces. You do not want your mouthpiece just thrown in the case and have that very fragile end here damaged, dented, because when you have that dented end of the mouthpiece, what that does is that completely changes the airflow that's exiting. Okay, and so in that uneven airflow is going to come into the trombone, and it's going to give you just a less focused sound. Okay, your ability, your facility on the instrument is not going to be as accurate. So again, I cannot stress that enough, guys. They sell multiple ones. If you're, maybe you play in jazz band and for one piece you're playing third, but the next piece you're playing first. And so you switch from a 6.5 to a 12C. Okay. And so they sell double packs where you can put your 6.5 in, take out your 12. Okay. It's all about maintaining all of this equipment as well. Okay. Something, and the last thing here that I want to really, really encourage you guys to invest in is a practice mute. Okay. These practice mutes, they save lives, not just your family's lives. Okay. But let's say you got a gig. Okay. You're traveling to Seattle for a jazz festival. Okay. And you get to your hotel, all of this stuff, and you have sound check in 2 hours. Okay, so what are some things you can do? Well, you don't want to necessarily blow down the hotel and get complaints all day, right? So these little guys, okay, are just, this is a best brass practice mute. They sell other ones from different music stores as well, different price points. But what I love about these guys is that they literally fit inside your bell. Okay, so I can put this inside my trombone case and pack it just as normal. Okay, nothing is protruding out, and the sound difference is just, it's remarkable, absolutely remarkable. So I'll just play a B flat here. Pretty loud. Okay, here's the B flat with our practice mute. Same volume, same everything, same attack, same breath. Guys, I didn't change anything. Okay, these little guys are great. I know Yamaha has a silent brass system as well. And so this is a bit bigger, bit larger. It will not fit in your case, unfortunately. But what's very unique about this system is that there is a microphone jack, in which case, if it is very loud in your environment, it will pick up that sound incoming through the silent brass system and play through your headphones. So you can hear in real time exactly what you're playing. And this also is a condenser microphone in case you are looking for more recording capability. And I know I said I would wrap it there, guys, but I did say that I would talk a little bit about cases. Okay, so a bit about cases before we end is, well, there's just like mouthpieces and bore sizes, there's plenty to choose from. You have your soft cases or your gig bags, often as they're called. And what these are just little, leather zip up bags, not made for any real protection, but made for you just to quickly put your horn in, zip up, maybe, place in the back of your car, head to the jam session, take it out, put it back in, and be along with your day, go back home. They are not meant for everyday use. And by that, I mean day-to-day abuse, okay? The scratches, the dings, okay? This is not going to be the case that you want to be taking to the airport, let's just say. And so we have a few other cases. Those were gig bags, okay? We also have our standard fabric vinyl cases, okay? These are wonderful because they also allow you to put different materials, okay? For instance, I have my plunger mute in my case, and it never leaves because I'm able just to put it to the side. And what these cases are, they might look like just fabric, okay? But they are actually wood on the inside, and then fabric is then attached to the outers and then sewed together with foam, protective, linings, things like this. And that is okay to take to the airport. Still a little risky to check in because it is wood. Remember again, guys, that wood is damageable, right? It can bend, it can break. There is this company named Eastman, and they are, I don't believe they are the Eastman School of Music at all, but this is Eastman trombone cases. Now, what's great about these cases is that these are made out of a hard exterior. They are waterproof by the binding you can see here, okay? And they are pretty much indestructible, okay? I've had this case for over 10 years now, and whenever I go and fly somewhere, this is the guy to take. They can pack your large bore tenor trombones without a problem. They can also pack in your small bore jazz trombones without a problem. You might just have to maybe fill in with a towel or something like that. But look at all the abuse, guys. Look at all the abuse that this thing has taken, okay, from airports, you name it. I mean, look at that chip, right? And so I just really feel comfortable checking this thing in to different environments and not having to worry about, is my instrument going to be okay? Because when you get to a professional venue or something like that, those are issues you don't want to have to worry about. But if you're not taking the time and thinking about all of these things, you will be surprised of issues that can come up because of this. Now, Mike, do you have some different cases when you travel?
I actually do. And I'm glad you mentioned that because one of the biggest things with musicians right now is, what do you do when you have to fly?
Exactly.
I've heard so many horror stories of, even trying to take your instrument on the plane. And they say, no, we need to put that under the plane.
So that's a sousaphone. You can't just put that in a closet.
Nah, you just can't put that one in the closet. So expect to, pay a little extra for your baby. And everyone's different. Of course, I'm a trumpet player. So it's a lot easier for me to do this than, say, maybe a trombone player or a tuba player. But, definitely put the money into a case. Most people think it's just all about the instrument, but if the maintenance is not right and the protection's not there, you're going to get disappointed at some point. And there's nothing like getting your instrument, you open up your case and it's all broken up. You're heartbroken. And then you think about, if I would have spent maybe just a little bit more money for that protection, we won't have the problem. So I would just recommend quality when it comes to the cases. I do have some soft cases that when I'm on the go, and that's the real lightweight, but when I need the heavy duty stuff, I'm looking into the Gator cases for some of my, audio stuff, recording stuff. And
something with that hard external,
yes,
outside. Yeah.
Yeah, that hard external, something heavy duty that you can put a lock on it as well. Don't forget about that because the security aspect is very important as well. And one thing, since we're talking about that, I would highly recommend everyone write down the serial number of your instrument. We don't think about that sometimes. We talk about taking care of it, but what if, it gets mixed up or stolen? If you don't have that information, it could be gone forever. But if it ends up somewhere and we can trace it, hey, that's my horn. I know that's my horn. So
that is a great tip, Mike.
Mm-hmm. But thank you. It's something we have to think about and have that information, save it, email it to yourself, the brand, the model, serial number. And nobody can ever say it's theirs because you have that information.
Absolutely.
But I like the fact that, you went through the different mouthpieces. Some people get into that quest of trying to find the perfect mouthpiece. And there are some amazing ones out there. But I would recommend don't forget the work that has to be put into that brand new mouthpiece because you can't, push that to the side.
That's what I was saying about 2 weeks. You shouldn't make a yes or no decision in 2 days, especially when coming to equipment. It takes time for yourself to understand how that small or larger diameter is going to affect your playing, how you warm up, how you're able to do your slurs.
That is true. And I've done that before where I tried a new mouthpiece and I'm like, this is amazing. And then a couple days later, you're like,
I thought this was good.
I thought it was. And I'm back to sounding just like I was. Okay. All right. So please, don't fall for that, but definitely do your research. We're all built different. So we want to make sure you get the right equipment for your build, and that's what's going to work for you. Even with trumpets, we always start with that 7C. Some people love the 3C mouthpieces, but I've seen professionals that still play on a 7C. Yeah. It's amazing stuff, and people will say, "Oh, that's a beginner mouthpiece." Well, who said it had to definitely be a beginner mouthpiece?
Right. And then that was the thing here. I wanted to give you guys some great mouthpiece sizes, but I don't think there's such thing as a bad or a good mouthpiece, in my opinion. As you grow on your instrument, some might move to different sizes or different feels, but many will not. Like you're saying, some will play that 7C, that 12C, that 5, that 6.5 for their whole career. And if you give them any other mouthpieces, well, guess what? They sound great on those too, because like you're saying, they've put in that time on their original equipment.
Absolutely. So, the information you gave us today, it was awesome. It's something that you have to think about. We don't get a chance to talk about maintenance and care as much, but it is vital. Yes. If you drive your car and you never change the oil, you're going to understand exactly why it's important to do so. if you keep driving. But hopefully you won't do anything like that. So, Tyler, it's been awesome today working with you. I mean, you always give us so many great topics and so much great information. It's a wealth of knowledge here. We know you're out there playing and you're teaching. You're doing exactly what you're talking about. So we know that you're a credible source. And all the educators that's here, they're all credible sources because they are on the stages, they're in the classroom, and you hear them play. So we hope that you're going to share this with other people, other students, professional musicians. It doesn't matter. You could be a beginner or you could be playing for 30 years. We still want to see you here. We still want to connect with you. So if you have a topic that you want us to discuss or tell us the great things that's happening, you can email us here at info@clearwaterjazz.com. We would love to hear from you. And you can always go back and hear the different sessions and archives at www.clearwaterjazz.com/education. So until next time, Professor, it's been great. And we ask that you just keep on swinging, everybody. Have a beautiful day, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.